here we go. This is the parts of the brain. So if we were to split the brain into 3 sections, it would be the, say it with me, hindbrain, midbrain, and forebrain. Perfect. So that's the basic 3 things that we say if we were to just split our brain up, that's what it is. Now within the hindbrain, we have the occipital lobe, which does what? Like if I had to say a keyword. Take your
Processes
vision. Yeah? Okay. So, each one of these lobes splits up the 5 senses. So that's the easy way to remember. And if you think ocular, like eye, occipital. Okay. Here in the midbrain, we have the parietal lobe and the temporal lobe. What does the parietal lobe process?
touch.
Processes touch. So anything we touch, feel, that touches us, etc. Okay, what about the temporal lobe?
Hearing and language.
Hearing and language. So this is what we hear, this is what we say, and this is how we understand things like vocabulary. And the frontal lobe does what?
Thinking, planning, memory, and judgment, and movement.
Thinking, planning, memory, judgment. So if I was to put all of those into one thing, that's not a sense, is it? So what would you say is housed in the frontal lobe? Even if you have to guess that.
What do you mean by housed?
Like if I put all of these into saying one thing, what would I would be saying is in the frontal lobe?
Memory.
Definitely that's part of it. My personality.
Okay.
The frontal lobe makes up who I am. This is my mind, this is how I think, this is what I remember, this is my emotions, this is how I make good and bad decisions. This is me. These are my senses. Okay? So are we good so far?
Yeah, just
You're fine. Okay. If I was to go to the corpus collosum, what does that do?
connects the areas of the brain.
So it connects our hemispheres, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's only the left and right hemisphere. Let's go into that real quick. So our left hemisphere and our right hemisphere, if the brain was split in half. So what's the cool thing about this? Do you remember? Like what does the left do and what does the right do?
The left is language and math.
Yeah. Good as far as what they do, but what part of the body do they control?
The opposite.
Yes. So the left controls the right side of the body, and the right controls the left side of the body. And like you said, each side is responsible for certain things, but how they connect is through going opposite ways in the brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So if, let's say my left one was to get damaged, what would happen?
Your right side would be affected.
My right side would definitely be affected. Same thing if my right side was to be damaged, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as you were saying before, tell me now what the left hemisphere does. What is it responsible for?
The right side of the body.
No, yes, what you were originally saying, like the language
and math.
Language and math. And what does the right side do?
I think emotions.
You think what?
Emotions.
Emotions is one. It also controls movement. Kind of goes into vision. So look at that super cool diagram that has Brad Pitt on one side and Leo DiCaprio on the other. I cannot draw Brad Pitt or Leo DiCaprio, so we're just going to have two different guys, but that's okay, right?
I don't know where that picture is.
Let me help you. for you to be able to get. Oh, it's like way back here. Here it is. So let me just make sure. So, sorry. I'm trying to get under that because this little text bubble is very helpful. Okay, perfect. Okay. So, with this, let's say, who's your two favorite guy celebrities right now?
Chris Pine.
Good choice. And who else?
I don't know.
Pick one. Name it.
You can go for
All right. I like Will Ferrell. He's funny and I'm married, so I shouldn't be looking at me. All right. So, let's say this is literally a picture split in half. On the left side is half of Chris Pine's face, and on the right side is half of Will Ferrell's face. These guys look nothing alike. Absolutely not. So if my left hemisphere is damaged, what am I gonna see as my left is seeing? Who is my left gonna see? This is left, and this is right.
You're gonna see Will Ferrell.
So that would be, yeah, so if my left is the one I'm focusing on, I see Will Ferrell. If the right is the one I'm focusing on, I see Chris Pine. But as you would know, since my left processes language, if I'm seeing Will Ferrell and I ask who I'm seeing, I'm going to say, I see Will Ferrell. If I say my right is what I'm using, it is going to be me pointing to Chris Pine because that's my movement. So what is this whole thing right here referring to? Starts with an S.
Single, no. Split brain.
Yep, so this is the split brain experiment. It just goes to show that our left and right hemispheres processes opposite, and when one gets opposite, it does, when one gets damaged, it does affect both. Okay, so any questions on that?
No.
Awesome. So, great job on the corpus callosum. If I were to ask you what the hippocampus was, what would you say? What does it do? It processes something.
New memories.
Processes new memories, including emotions. Perfect. All right. What would I say my amygdala does?
Processes many emotions, especially emotional memories.
So yeah, this processes our emotions. And then it sends it to our hippocampus. So these two definitely work together right here. Sends it to our hippocampus, which processes all memories, including our emotional memories. So when we talk about storing memories, we're usually talking about storing them in our hippocampus. Okay? So what is the pituitary gland?
So wait, which one is directed with the hippocampus?
Amygdala and hippocampus work together to process emotional memories.
And what was the next question?
The next question is, what would you tell me the pituitary gland does?
It's the master gland that controls hormones.
Controls our hormones. This is what goes funky when you get pregnant. Okay, so yeah, this controls all those ups and downs and weird bodily effects we get. Women, especially, in my opinion, anyway. All right, what about the hypothalamus?
Regulates body temperature, hunger, thirst, and sexual behavior.
Perfect. So the cool thing about the hypothalamus is we're not always thinking about that. Do we need to think about whether our body's at 98.6 degrees?
No.
And we just usually know if we're hungry or thirsty, right? We don't have to like consult.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. All right. What about the medulla? What does that do?
It's an extension of the spinal cord with heart rate, circulation, respiration.
So yeah. Important to note that this is connected to the spinal cord. And then yeah, heart rate, breathing, etc. So again, other things that we're not actively thinking of. Most of the time we're not thinking breathe out, breathe in. We're also not thinking about how many beats our heart is beating unless we're taking our pulse, right? Okay, so cerebellum. What would you tell me that is?
Fine motor skills.
Yeah. Pretty simple, straightforward. Like me doing this, I'm using my cerebellum, holding a pen and
What
writing.
would your solid cerebellum be then?
Cerebellum is within that midbrain section.
Okay.
The hindbrain and the forebrain are both very important, but the midbrain houses a lot of the extra stuff because it's so protected because it's in the middle.
So would like the lobes, are they considered to be like only in the hindbrain or
See,
midbrain?
they all feed off of each other, of course, through the left and right hemispheres. So like if I were to split this, this would be my left and this would be my right. But yeah, these are considered more to be in the middle of the brain.
So the hindbrain is the left hemisphere and the forebrain is?
The hindbrain and part of the midbrain are within the left, and the right is part of the front and the left. Okay, let me double check that. Yes. It's actually probably more like that, but you don't gotta get that specific. Okay, great. So again, the review is that our cerebellum does the fine motor skills, things like writing or etc. Last but not least, can you tell me, actually there's two more, sorry, what's the thalamus do?
Transmits the information.
Transmits information.
And senses.
So you'll learn about this a little more in future chapters and future sections of the class. But when we get information through any of our senses, so through any of these lobes, there's a slow pathway and a fast pathway. Now your slow pathway is going to like filter it through the thalamus. The fast pathway is just going to be senses to lobe. Okay? And now, last but not least, what is the basal ganglia?
Intentional movements.
Intentional movements. So me waving is an intentional movement.
So what is an unintentional movement?
Your heart beating. Have you ever gotten those things like where they check your reflexes and you kick?
So it's like a non-reflex.
It's, yeah, exactly. All right. Any questions on the parts of the brain in the left and right hemispheres and split brain?
No.
Awesome.